Hey guys, Dr. Morse, Injury Experts. Welcome. It is the end of week 8. We are about halfway through the season. If this is your first time, I am a sports medicine physician in Miami, and we are going to talk about all the different injuries from week 8. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. So, there were about 13 injuries that I'm going to discuss today, a couple more that may or may not have happened. And I'm sure there will be some that get introduced over the next couple of days. It's important to note that this week was absolutely ridiculous with injuries. About 90 injuries between quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Ridiculous amount of injuries. Now, this is by far the most injuries we've ever had that I can remember. And I've been doing this since 2017 or so about 8 years. Long time, and I don't know if it's the way they're doing it, calling it. All I know is that the volume of injuries is absolutely bananas. There's very few teams, both fantasy and regular teams, that are spared, and it's just getting kind of ridiculous at this point. It's a mash unit per se. So I do my best to try to keep you up and to try to keep you guys informed. If you appreciate the content, do me a favor, follow me on Twitter. Smash a thumbs up, subscribe. If you want higher end content, more specific content, consider joining the premium services at theinjuryexperts.com. So without further ado, do me a favor and check out this advertisement by OddsJam, and then we will get started.
Looking to up your game in sports betting? Meet OddsJam, your ultimate ally in the world of data-driven wagering. With over 260 sportsbooks under its belt, OddsJam is the go-to platform for savvy bettors. Here's how it works. OddsJam's arbitrage tool scans the market in real time, spotting differences in betting lines across various sportsbooks. This means you can lock in risk-free bets by betting on both sides of the market. But that's not all. OddsJam also provides a positive EV calculator to optimize your bets and a handy bet tracker to optimize your profits. By using OddsJam, you're not just betting smarter, you're betting responsibly for long-term profitability. And here's the kicker. They offer a 7-day free trial. Ready to give it a shot? Use the code MORSE, M-O-R-S-E, for a 35% discount on your first month. Secure your bets with confidence. Make informed decisions with OddsJam.
All right. So thank you very much for that. If that's something you're interested in, if you're looking for arbitrage, if you're a bettor and you're trying to find different odds, that may be a good option for you. Definitely consider checking it out. Now, Drake Maye unfortunately suffered a big hit and left the game. By the grace of God, the Patriots, my team, the Patriots, managed to come back and win the game and an upset to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Now, it remains to be seen, obviously, if he can come back next week or how it plays out. But nonetheless, we will have to see. There's only 2 teams on bye next week, San Francisco and Pittsburgh. The second quarterback that got injured, initially it looked like he tweaked or retweaked his left knee earlier in the game. They didn't really say what it was. He went back into the game. Coach said after halftime he was pretty immobile and just didn't have a lot of mobility, and they'd have to kind of change some of the game plans. Well, come to find out, he re-injures it again, and it's not his knee, it's actually his groin. So the adductor muscles are a group of 3 muscles that basically attach to the inside of the thigh all the way down to basically almost the knee and run all the way up to the top. And there's 3 of them that kind of run across and attach. Now, these are very important for rotating out your leg, picking up your leg, pretty much pushing off everything you do with your legs is that stupid groin muscle. These are very painful. These are notorious for re-injury. Especially the grade 2s. So we'll have to see how long he's going to potentially be out. This is the second injury of the year. They do have a bye week in 2 weeks, so maybe they hold him out and then hold him out through the bye and come back from there. Malik Willis managed to, again, win them the game in salvaging a potential beautiful game secondary to Love's injury. Heading over to running backs, Jordan Mason suffered a likely re-injury to this AC sprain. Now, you need to understand the concept of the AC sprain for understanding why he re-injured this. Remember, he's lowering his head and running with his shoulder. Okay? Now, what is the AC sprain? What is an AC joint? This joint right here that has multiple ligaments that hold this thing here, there's a couple more in the back. All of these are responsible for kind of holding that joint together. The problem with this injury is that it doesn't heal in a week for a running back. Wide receivers are different. They're not running into people as much per se. Now, the good thing is that he's on a bye this week. The bad thing is he didn't meet really anything, and he's been pretty mediocre for the past month. Issac Guerendo looked really good tonight. He tweaked his leg, but I think he ended up coming back in and he was okay. And then there's a decent chance, I know a lot of people are skeptical, but there's a decent chance that Christian McCaffrey may be back in week 10. So we may be seeing a changing of the tide from Jordan Mason being, oh, I'm the bell cow, and now he's injured, Guerendo coming up, and Christian McCaffrey coming back. So we may see it's McCaffrey and Guerendo. I would not have Guerendo on the bench. Yes, there's a better chance that Mason can play in week 10, but this is still a high-risk injury. And I don't think they want to sit Guerendo. He's fast. And he's going to offer something that McCaffrey and Mason don't. So this may become a relatively ugly running back by committee. Heading into a separate guy that appeared to possibly get tweaked at the end of the game is Josh Jacobs. He left kind of hobbled off the field. I didn't hear anything else about it. I'm still waiting for details. He had a fantastic game. I'm hoping it's a whole lot of nothing, but at least something worth mentioning. Heading into the biggest group of the day, the biggest injury of the day, and unfortunately, that's Stefon Diggs. Stefon suffered a right knee injury when he was running for a route, landed, tried to pivot, kind of shimmy, and that leg didn't cooperate. Now, when he was running, he tried to cut laterally to his right, and the right knee at the lateral aspect over here, which is the LCL, which is this one right here, and the lateral meniscus, it looked like it kind of just gave out. But sometimes, more often than not, this is actually the ACL. He did not return to the game, and I have, unfortunately, significant concerns about the ACL. I am hoping that it is not the ACL. But we won't know more until tomorrow. They will get Nico Collins back in week 10. Tank Dell looked pretty good, but unfortunately this would be a pretty significant injury for the veteran wide receiver. Speaking of potentially significant injuries, Christian Kirk suffered an injury to his shoulder. Now, this is not a traditional shoulder injury. He did not AC sprain. He did not dislocate his shoulder. Instead, he fractured his collarbone. Now, the collarbone attaches to the SC joint and to the AC joint. Now, the problem with the collarbone is that it's actually the last bone to fuse in the body. I believe it's around 21 or 22 years old. And so it's usually relatively weak at that point, but most of the time you can bruise it. That's what Dalton Kincaid's probably dealing with, but you can fracture it. Ask Aaron Rodgers, he's fractured one on both sides. And he's had surgery, likely on both sides. Now, the fascinating thing about this is they ruled him out for the rest of the year per Jordan Schultz. Now, this is traditionally not an end-of-year sequence. So the question is, why? Did he suffer another injury with this? Did he puncture his lung? Which can happen because the lung is right underneath the clavicle, the collarbone, and you can technically point it down and right into your lung. Uncommon, but it can happen. The other thing that can happen is it can pie out through the skin, which is crazy, but a massive problem, huge infection risk, and that would definitely qualify for season ending. If this was a traditional fracture, traditionally they fracture in the middle, and you put a plate and screws, and they usually do fine in about 4 to 6 weeks. You can fracture it at the SC joint or at the AC joint, and these are a much bigger problem, and that may be what he's dealing with. Nonetheless, this was a guy that was potentially on the block for trading, and now is reportedly done for the year. Now, the other guy in this offense that was on fire since basically the beginning of the season is Brian Thomas Jr. He's been incredible, but unfortunately, he suffered injury to his own, and he suffered a chest, which is usually a rib injury. Now, rib injuries can be anything like a rib bruise, a rib cartilage injury like Jalen Dallins, who had a ridiculous game and a monster Hail Mary dealt with, and then obviously a rib fracture, which we've seen with Alvin Kamara, we've seen with Taysom Hill, and many other people. It remains to be seen how significant this is, but this would be a huge loss for not only most of our teams, but also for the Jaguars and just for the NFL in general. This kid is talented. That would boost up Evan Ingram and whoever else is left in that wide receiving core, because they don't really have a whole lot of guys left that are, notable if Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas are both going to be out. Changing over to the Chicago Bears, who suffered the defeat in a crazy ending, absolutely bananas. DJ Moore, it looked like he tweaked his hand, but he came back into the game, so I'm not really going to make much of it. This offense, which was not cooperating early on, Caleb looked absolutely dreadful. He was like 3 for 13 for 33 yards, like late in the third quarter, and it was a hot mess. He came back and salvaged the day a little bit, but it was still pretty ugly. Sterling Shepard ended up tweaking his hamstring and was done for the game. Unfortunately, Gabe Davis, also on the Jags, suffered a shoulder injury, probably a re-injury to his previous injury. So I don't know who Trevor Lawrence is going to throw to besides maybe Travis Etienne if he comes back, and Evan Ingram, and I guess Brenton Strange. And then finally, Juwan Johnson with a hamstring strain, reportedly. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Saquon Barkley did leave early in the game, but ended up coming back. If you like this type of content, do me a favor, smash a thumbs up, subscribe, check out some of the other content. I will do plenty of videos during the week for you. Let me know who you want to hear about, how your teams are doing, how you did this week. I absolutely smashed, which I don't happen to do often, but I will take it. It was a great week for me. I think I went 10-3. Thank you very much. We will see you next week. Take care.